But this mindset thing, I think guys like you, because I go back to, I can't even fathom. I work long hours, and I've done that for 18 years in real estate, long hours.
What kind of hours are we talking about here?
Hours that aren't healthy.
Yeah. Like 80-plus hours or something like that.
Every week.
Every week.
For 18 years.
18 years.
And so I know when you can just come from basic average or below average places that I come from, I know what's possible. Just like you do. And even though I have these crazy hours I work, and in my world, people, they're like, man, that guy's nuts and he's crazy. I think you're a little more crazy. Because I can't even imagine what 300 miles of running is. I just can't. And so for me to elevate my mind to go to another place of what I'm capable of, I know what it was like at 170 miles when you thought about, hey, man, I just need something. What are all those thoughts? Like, where's your mind go? And 300 miles, it's all you. You're alone. Yeah. What's your mind tell you?
Yeah, so I usually break it down into small units. So I always like focus on, in that particular race, just every hour. And I do the best I can to not think ahead. So I may think just for snapshot, like, oh, wow, we're already at mile 200. Or I may think, okay, just for a snapshot, all right, I know this is going to go at least 300 miles. But then I try to take that away and I just focus on the moment at hand, the next hour. Because that's all, if I start thinking beyond that, I'll lose myself. Like, I just have to focus on that. And a lot of times it's about, like, within that time, focusing on the strategy and, like, elements like, okay, I need to make sure I drink this, eat this. I need to get some of that, my other 2 times used shirt. I need to, I need to do something. So there's a lot of things are happening in my mind. And when you're really tired, it's hard to remember a list. So you're running and you're trying to think, okay, I got 3 things I got to do when I get back to that tent. So that takes up a little bit of mind. And then when you're doing that, it's actually positive because you're not thinking like, oh, I'm like totally disaster, wiped out. I try not to think about the discomfort, but that helps. The other thing I do is, on the trail, there's 11 hours on the trail, and it's like about 400 feet of climbing, and it's got little technical areas, and we're not allowed to have music on the trail most of the time. Sometimes Laz lets us in the later days, when it's like 3rd or 4th day. But on the road, you can have music. So I actually like to listen to music because I don't ever take any pain medicine. There are some, maybe ultra runners that might do that, but I think it's a bad idea. Like, I think it's a bad idea because it's rough on your kidneys, and it's also really, it's like you're going to mask something that could be an injury, or you're not going to respond to it. So I believe that everything that's discomfort, I have to deal with it like through my mind, and that's how I do it. So I will listen to music if I'm feeling like, and I'm not running through pain like in terms of joint pain or I did break my hand in the race, so that would have been pain, but it was more like numbness.
Did you keep running?
I kept running, yeah. So that race I envision myself sometimes as the honey badger. So there's a really funny YouTube.
Mean animals,
they're
man.
mean animals, and there's a really funny YouTube video. If you've never seen it, it's had 10 million views. I mean, it's like this guy narrating the honey badger, and it's like, the honey badger gets in a fight with a king cobra, and the cobra bites him, and the honey badger passes out, and then the honey badger wakes back up and eats the cobra. It's like, so that was my mindset in the race, and it was like, no matter what happened, I was just going to keep going until I literally passed out, or I was so broken that I couldn't even move. But otherwise, I was just going to keep going till the very last person. And it was in my mind. I mean, it's really tough. You've got 30 other runners who are all champions at other backyards competing at this race. So these are really hardened people. I mean,
so So why do you think you're the one in that moment? Why are you the one?
I had at that particular race, I had some things working for me. I had prepared for the race. So I really worked hard to prepare. I mean, I worked hard. I mean, I worked hard. I ran 3 times a day. I mean, every day. There wasn't a day I ever took off. And I'd run like tonight. Like we'll finish this podcast. I'm gonna go run for a couple hours. Like I just run. I don't know what time I get home. It doesn't matter. It'll be like 10 o'clock. That's fine. It doesn't matter.
You're an animal,
so
man.
I keep training. I train very hard, but I also like have a lot of good strategies. So I'm a good strategist, and I watch. I'm like, I like observe. I observe the other people. I like playing. I like the psychological competitive element to the race too. You know, you there's a lot of psychology that goes into the fight, you know, the battle. And also I have surrounded myself with the best crew chief, Judd, who I was telling you about. He was the best of anyone that could have been there for any team. And so, you know, when you surround yourself with like amazing people, that helps for amazing stuff to happen.
So it took you. See, this is something that every day I'm looking for the algorithm to transfer to people I'm around. Because I think what I've found is, and when I started this real estate company, I said, man, everyone wants to live a better life. That's a fundamental belief I've had. But they don't know how. I don't know why they don't know how. I don't know why you know how to do it via ultra marathons and accomplish the top level. I don't know why whatever limited amount of success I've had, right? I've achieved a decent amount, but there's still a long way to go. It's a long game. And I'm sitting here listening to that story. You're like, well, it's a lot of factors. I'm like, okay, but it all comes down to this place that in your mind you're like, I'm not quitting. And you're like, okay, well, I trained. I had the right crew chief, right? And so what I'm sitting here thinking is like, oh, you learned all that. You learned all that was important through all the losses that you had, all the second place finishes. Every race you've run, because you were looking at it like, hey, I'm going to do this for a long time, and I want to be better, and it's an analytical game. Let me learn something every time. And without all those races, without all those losses, you probably wouldn't know that all the strategy was important.
No. Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's it definitely informed all that. And
so that's what I'm wondering. Did you know along the way? Did you know that was important along the way, that all those lessons you were learning?
Oh, no way. I did not. I mean, I honestly, I never even imagined that it was possible to do the things I'm doing today. Like back when I was in my 20s, I thought like 130 miles in 24 hours seemed like a somewhat lofty goal.
Oh, that's lofty.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, it's lofty.
And so it's wild because, you know, this year, for example, I got the record on the course I ran my first ultra in back in 96. And back in 96, I ran this race. I ran 81.25 miles over 24 hours, and it was a run-walk type deal. But I was just elated to get 81.25 miles. And then this is 26 years later. I've been back to this race, I think eight, maybe 7 times. Yeah, 7 times. And I got the course record with 148.68 miles. It's just wild, like that, you know, my mind is different today than it was when I was in my 30s. I wouldn't have thought that was possible. Yeah, it's wild. It's interesting because, you know, we do put a governor on ourselves at times with what we think is achievable and what's achievable. And that's where, you know, today I feel like my record in the 24 hours, 160.609 miles. And I got that in 2019 in Albi, France at the World Championship. And I'm not the best in the world at the 24-hour race, but I feel like I can still beat that 160-mile mark, which is kind of neat at 46. Like I really believe I'm still going to get higher mileage than that. And I don't know, I might be a little delusional, but it's kind of fun to think that way. And I like that. I think that fits with the entrepreneurial spirit too, because you think about, what are we capable of achieving is in our own lives with whatever you dream of doing. And to have like those, goal plans for like, okay, what's our goal today, the goal for the week, the goal for the month, the goal for the year, the goal for the next 5 years, where are we going with this? Like, so I mean, it's like there's a fire inside.